Hello, I hope that you all have a chance to see my previous video on user interface. This video is a continuation of the previous video. In this video, we're going to be talking about templates, which is the first option that you need to pick when you start a new project. Also, we're going to be talking about how to customize user interface. And obviously, since you haven't used the software yet, you wouldn't know what to customize. So the point of this video is to make you become aware of what is customizable as far as Revit user interface is concerned. And finally, we're going to be talking about how to save Revit file and the save options. Let's get started. So when I said start a new project, I'm referring to new models. To me, it just comes a little bit more naturally when I said project, so forgive me for that confusion. I'm going to start a new project by clicking on New under Models, and you will see this dialog box. The first option, as I said, is selecting a template. If I select the down arrow on the right side of this, it'll give us a drop-down menu. And for us, since we are in the US, the template that we use is going to be Imperial. But if you live anywhere else in the world, you'll be using metric. Now I want you to take a mental note of the organization of the template that you see right now, because later on I'm going to show you how to reorganize the order of the template. For my class, I want to make absolutely sure that students use Imperial Architectural Template. Since Imperial Construction Template is first on the list, I'm going to have to select it manually. I'm making sure that Architectural Templates is the one that I picked, and since I'm creating a new project, I want to make sure that project is selected. Then I can click OK. And now we are ready to start modeling. Next, we are going to discuss how to customize Revit user interface. To get there, you're going to go to File tab, and on the bottom right of the drop-down menu, you see Options button. Go ahead and click on that. And it'll give you this dialog box. Let's break it down one by one. As for myself, for the most part, the default option works really well. And as far as customizing, I only made a few changes to this. And to be completely honest with you, there's going to be some area that I just don't know it's simply enough to explain it to you. But I will tell you what I know. And there's going to be some area that I have no idea what it is and what it does. I'm going to skip that. First, let's take a look at General. Under Notifications, Revit will remind you to save your work at a certain preset time. Now, this is a reminder only. It doesn't actually save the work for you. So what will happen is that you will get a dialog box to let you know that you haven't saved your work yet. You have an option to click Cancel, and your file will not be saved, or you can click Save and your work will be saved and the backup file will be created. You may be tempted to click on Cancel, but I want to recommend that you resist that urge and save your work every time you see the reminder. Now let's expand and see what option we have. You have 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, and so on. And the way that I think about this is, how many minutes worth of work am I willing to lose in case my system crashes? And to be completely honest, the reminder can sometimes be quite annoying. So I'm not going to set it to 15 minutes, but 1 hour worth of work is too much to lose. So I'm going to set my Save Reminder Interval to 30 minutes. Next is Synchronize with Central Reminder Interval. This is an advanced topic that we're not going to be discussing in this class, so I'm going to leave it as default and skip this area. Username. If you sign up as a student to get the 1-year subscription, you'll be signing in automatically when you launch the software. And the username that you see here came from the username that you sign in on your Autodesk account. And if you are working in team, and again, this is an advanced option, so I'm not going to be covering that. If you're working in team, this is how your team identify you as the work is being shared. Journal file cleanup. As you work on Revit, Revit will be saving some information such as errors in the background. And if for some reason you need to contact customer support or your IT department, they may be asking you for the journal file in order for them to figure out what went wrong during that session. I'm going to skip this area. Work sharing update frequency. This is also an advanced topic, so I'm not going to cover that. And lastly, under General, View Options. Now this one, I kind of know what it does, but I just don't know it simply enough to explain it to you. So I'm going to attempt to explain this the best that I could. As you can see, there are preset options. This control how object is seen on the screen, such as halftone lines, line types, and line weights. Which element is visible and which element isn't, for instance. But the view options can be changed on the fly under Properties palette, so I'm not going to worry about this. Next, let's go to User Interface. Tools and Analyze. These control what tab you see above the ribbon. As I mentioned on the previous video, I customized my tab so that it shows the only tabs that I use. If you use structural and mechanical tabs, go ahead and put a check mark in front of those items in order to enable it. For my students, make sure that you have structural and mechanical system turned off. Again, this will help me with troubleshooting in case you have any problem. The second portion of Tool and Analyst is keyboard shortcuts and double-click options. Keyboard shortcuts give you quick access to some of the tools. By clicking on Customize, you can find out what are some of the existing shortcuts. You can also reassign or assign new shortcuts to some of the tools. I will not be covering this, so I encourage you to explore this area on your own. Double-click options. This will be a little bit difficult for me to explain, since at this point, you have never used the software yet. Clicking on Customize will give you a quick description of what double-clicking on some of the object will behave. We may visit this area again as we start using the software. Tooltip Assistance. In order for me to explain this, I need to show you first what is tooltip. I will need to close this dialog box. Tooltip appears when you hover over an object or a tool. For an object, it gives you a brief description of the object. And for the tool, when you first hover over the tool, it gives you a brief description. And if you leave it on top of the tool a while longer, it'll give you a detailed description of the tool. Let me show you what it looks like. First, when you hover over the tool, it tells you what the tool is. And in the parentheses, that is the keyboard shortcut for the tool. And if you leave it a while longer, it gives you a detailed description of the tool. For some tool, it even gives you an animation. Now let's take a look at how it behaves when you hover over an object. Since I don't have anything, I'm just going to use the elevation marker as an example. You can see the tooltip on the bottom right of the selector. It's giving you a brief description of the elevation marker. I will explain to you how it works when we discuss element hierarchy. Now let us get back to where we were. In correlation with tool, if you leave it at none, it will not show tooltip at all. Minimal will only show the brief description. Normal will behave like what we see in the example. It will first show the brief description and then the detailed description. And if you set it as high, it's gonna skip the brief description and jump right into a detailed description. I'm gonna leave it at normal. Next is ribbon tab switching behavior. Revit interface is dynamic interface. That means that sometimes the ribbon up on top will switch or change its behavior based on what view you're on or what object is being selected at the time. For the most part, the default setting works really well for me, so I am going to leave it as is. And lastly, under user interface, visual experience. The active theme right now is light. I'm going to change it to dark just so that you can see what changed. So that's the only thing that it does. It changed the bar up on top to a darker background. I'm going to change it back. I always have use hardware graphic acceleration if available checked. This means that if your system supports it, the hardware will be used to assist with the rendering. Now on to graphics. The first two panels, I don't understand it simply enough, but I know that it controls the way that the line looks when you pan or orbit the model. I usually have them all checked, and if I have any problem with the line's quality, I would come back to this view and turn it on and off and see if that solved the problem for me. So that is all I'm going to say about the first two panels. Colors. Again, I leave everything as default, but I will show you just a few things. If you came from AutoCAD, AutoCAD has black background and lines are shown in various color. If you prefer to have the background be black instead of white to kind of reduce the strain on your eyes, you can change it here. And for you to be able to see that, you have to click OK and get out from this dialog box. And obviously the line that's supposed to be black will turn into white in this background. I'm going to undo it. Now with selection, pre-selection, alert, calculating, and rebar editing, I encourage you to explore with the rest of the setting on your own. Lastly, under graphics, temporary dimension text appearance. Since I don't have any object on this project file, I'm going to have to take a screenshot and show it to you. As you can see on the screenshot, a sliding door is selected and the temporary dimension is showing its distance from the nearby window. This setting can be customized and I will show you how to do that on a later video. Now if the text is too small, you can adjust the size to a higher number. For me, 8 is perfect, so I'm going to leave it as is. Background. I usually have it set as transparent, but you can also set it to opaque. What it does is that when the text is on top of another line, it will create a white background behind the text, making the text easier to read. However, the white background will block the line that the text is on top. Now let's get back to where we were. Hardware. This again assists with the rendering. I usually have it checked until I notice any problem with the graphics, then I will come back and uncheck to see if it fixed the problem. When the problem occurs, that usually means that the hardware does not exist or it is not supported. File location. Earlier I asked you to take a mental note of the arrangement of the template. That's because every time when we start a new project, we have to first select a template. And the first one that we saw on the list was Imperial Construction Template. Since in this class, we will be using Imperial Architectural Template, I want to move the template to the top of the list so that we don't have to manually select the template every time we start a new project. So what I have to do is highlight Imperial Architectural and then click on the up arrow to move it up on the list. So now when I start a new project, the Imperial Architectural Template should be at the top of the list. And since it is first on the list, it will be selected automatically. Default path for user files. This allowing you to select a default location for your project files. Since I always save my project files in different locations, I'm going to leave this where it is. Default path for family template files. This is where Revit will refer to when it needs to load family template. For my class, please make sure to not make any changes to the path. This will help me troubleshoot for you in case you need it later. Rendering, I'm going to skip this area. Check spelling. There are a few options that you can check or uncheck under settings. For our class, we will be using American English as main dictionary. But if you are required different dictionary, you can change your option here. If you have custom dictionary loaded on your system and you wish to use it, you can click on Edit and browse to the location in which you saved those dictionaries. Steering wheels came from Navigation Palette. Since I don't use this a lot, I'm not planning on covering it. I encourage you to explore this area on your own. View Cube shows up when you are in 3D view. Here, you can customize its appearance and behavior. Macro is not something that I understood well enough, so I'm going to skip this area. Before I move on and talk about the last part of this video, I want to backtrack a little bit and talk about templates. So template is a preset standard that is customizable by you to give you a good starting point for your new project. As of now, we only have the template that came with the software. So let me go ahead and open a couple of them to give you comparison. As you may recall, when we started this project, we used architectural template. Take a mental note of what the project browser looked like. I'm going to start another new project using construction template. Because of the change that we made earlier, now Imperial Architectural Template is on the top of the list. For comparison, this time we're going to start a new project using construction template. Under Create, make sure that project is selected, then click OK. As you can see on the project browser, under Construction Template, it is more refined compared to Architectural Template. This is one of many areas that you can customize so that your template can give you a better starting point for your project. We will talk about how to create your own template in a later video. Before I conclude this part of the video, I want to make sure to mention that it is important that you select the correct template when you start the project, as templates cannot be applied to an existing project. Finally, we are now ready to talk about how to save project. To save project, you can simply click on the floppy disk icon on the Quick Access toolbar, or click on File tab. Then click on Save. If you're saving the project for the first time, you'll be saving it as. You will get this dialog box that will ask you what name you want for the file and where you want to save it. I'm going to browse to the location that I have prepared for this project. I'm going to save it inside of How to Save folder. I will use the same name for the file. I want to make sure that the file extension is RVT, and before I hit save, I want to show you the options. After you click options, this dialog box will show up. Here, you can specify maximum number of backups that you want to create. Keep in mind that the backup files is the same size as the project file. Since Revit is a one file system, project file does get really big. The way that I think about this is that if there's 8 working hours in a day, and my save reminder is set to every 30 minutes, if I want to be able to get back to when I started working this morning, I will need to have at least 16 backups. Now, if hard drive space is an issue, then obviously we'll need to compromise. You might dial that number down just a little. As for myself, I will set this to 10. The next area is thumbnail preview. If I expand source, these are all views and sheets that exist in the project browser. And the thumbnail previews refer to the preview that you see on the right panel of the home screen. You can set it to any view that exists in the project browser, or you can set it to active view, which means whatever view you have before you exit the project, that will be your preview. I will set mine to active view. You can OK out of it, then hit save. From this point on, every time when you save the project, a backup file will be created. The number of backup files created will be the same as what you specify on the save options. The backup file will be saved at the same location as the project file. Here is the file that we saved a minute ago. The name that you see on this folder should match the name that you see up on top of the screen. Now, if I save this project one more time, and we go back to that window, you see the backup file. The 0001 indicates that this is the first backup. As you may recall, I set my maximum backup to 10. So if I hit save 10 times, on the 11th time I hit save, the first backup will be replaced by backup number 11. As you can see, we've reached the maximum number of backups. I'm going to save this project one more time and watch what happened with the first backup. The first backup is now being replaced with the number 11. Now that you see how the backup file works, I want to strongly suggest that you create a folder for every project file. Imagine if you have several projects in the same folder, and every time you hit save, it creates a new backup files. You may end up with 20, 30, or maybe 40 files in the same folder. That might make it difficult to identify which file to open. Hit me up in the comment if you have any question or any suggestion. Thank you for watching.